Let's solve some maths, shall we? 1789 to 2022. That's 233 years. No US president in that time had faced criminal charges. The year 2023 is an ignominious one for a nation that considers itself a beacon of democracy and an adherent to the rule of law. At least it does for opponents of Donald Trump. If you're a supporter, then what's happening is a witch hunt. Well, it won't be long now before the former US president finds out what charges he faces when he appears in a New York court. At least one of those charges could be a federal felony. If it's found, he tried to cover up a payment to the adult film star Stormy Daniels. Now, he's admitted that payment was made. But in American law, there's nothing illegal about that. Regarding everything else, Trump denies all wrongdoing, including having an affair with Daniels. Well, just a short time ago, he turned to his Truth social media platform, criticizing the judge and calling for a relocation of the court. He says he won't get a fair trial in Manhattan. He insists a different location, like nearby Staten Island, would be fairer, as well as providing a securer environment. And Trump supporters are holding a rally outside the Manhattan court. Police have beefed up security to ensure there's no violence. Several roads have been closed, barricades erected. Trump had already called on his supporters to protest and take our nation back, he said. Our correspondent, Frank Usciardo, is outside the court. So far, Frank, we've been kind of almost salaciously observing what's been happening, but now we're going to have to kind of get our heads around the legal issues, I suppose.
Yes, there are some distinctions within the law that will be revealed when the indictment is unsealed later this afternoon. And joining me now live here outside the courthouse is Professor Dmitriy Shakhnevich. He is with the John Jay Criminal College of Justice. Professor, can you describe for us the differences in the law that the District Attorney Alvin Bragg will be trying to use to convict Donald Trump?
So the initial falsifying business records charge is a misdemeanor, right? Generally considered in the law as not a very serious crime, as is often the case in New York. In order to escalate one crime to another, you have to combine it with another crime. In this particular case, to escalate it from a misdemeanor to a felony, they are using the campaign finance allegation.
Now, there are really, one is a misdemeanor and one it would be a felony. There's a difference in terms of what would be happening in terms of putting somebody in jail, wouldn't it be?
Felonies obviously are a lot more serious and oftentimes carry more serious consequences, including jail time. It's unclear what will happen if and when this case goes to a trial or moves closer to a trial as the weeks and months here progress.
Already the Trump attorneys have made a motion to change the venue of the trial from Manhattan Criminal Court here to Staten Island. How much of a difference would that make in picking a jury, and why would they want to do that?
Well, his lawyers seem to think that a Manhattan jury would be hostile to Donald Trump. Several years ago, Harvey Weinstein's lawyers in this same exact building tried to do the same thing. That request was denied. It's a very high standard to meet, but there has never been a case like this ever. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
A lot of this will really be depending on the credibility of Mr. Trump's former fixer and lawyer, Michael Cohen, and also David Pecker, who testified before the grand jury, who was the former publisher of the National Enquirer. I think there will be a lot of attacks on those people once they're cross-examined.
Sure, credibility is a question in every case. Every witness is cross-examined as to their credibility, and these witnesses will be no different. But it's important to distinguish information, the stuff that's in the media, stuff that the pundits are saying, from what will be admissible evidence in this case. We don't know what will be the evidence by the time we get to a jury, and by then it'll be a lot easier to make those kinds of determinations.
And finally, being not only a law professor but also a defense expert, do you believe that the district attorney would be offering any kind of a plea deal? It's up to him, isn't it?
It's up to the DA always to put forth a plea deal. Certainly defense lawyers can inquire as to whether or not a DA would do that. Again, way too early to see any light at the end of that tunnel.
Professor Shakhnevich, thank you for joining us here on TRT World. Again, it has been quite a circus from the beginning of the day. Hundreds and hundreds of protesters outside that courthouse. We expect the indictment to be unsealed in mid-afternoon. Back to you.
Okay, so just maybe 1 or possibly maximum 2 hours we're expecting. Thanks so much indeed, Frank.